So good evening and welcome. I'm Ken Pritchard.
And I am Wilma Holmes Tootle.
So as the 2013 benefit co-chairs, it's our privilege to formally welcome you to Erase Racism's annual benefit. This year's theme is creating equal access to a better future. First, if you wish to follow along, program cards are on each of the tables. And if you do not have a journal, at the close of the program, you can pick them up at the Erase Racism table in the rotunda.
We want to thank you, our generous sponsors and supporters, and the hard-working members of our benefit committee, the dedicated members of the board of directors and the college of advisors. All of their names are found in the journal. Also, special thanks to our devoted staff and volunteers who together make this event a success.
The names of our sponsors appear on the screens on both sides of the podium. We want to give special acknowledgement to our $50,000 champion sponsor, Community Advocates. $50,000. And also our $25,000 catalyst sponsor, American Express. Please hold your applause at the end, until the end as I read the names of our $10,000 leadership sponsors appearing on the screen. Alphabetically, they are Amy Hagedorn, Sue Hagedorn and Seaworks Films, Jobco Incorporated, Joan Salzman, and Jane and Martin Schwartz.
On our screens now are the $5,000 Trailblazer sponsors. I must ask that you hold your applause as I read their names. Accenture, Bethpage Federal Credit Union, Robert Cattell and Edward Miller, Howard Goodstein, Islamic Center of Long Island, Paul and Bill Jennings, Malloy College, North Shore LIJ Health System, and Pitney Bowes. You may now applaud. Our $2,500 sponsors are now scrolling on the screen. All of our sponsors and contributors are listed in our journal, and at the close of this program, the PowerPoint will resume with recognition of all our sponsors. Before Ken introduces a race racism specialist, President, I want to say that I volunteer for racism because, and this is very important, I volunteer, and this could be you, because I support the mission of advocacy. And I see the results of the good work that this organization does to help empower people in the traditionally underserved communities. It has been an honor, privilege, and pleasure for me to serve as a co-chair of this event.
And I am honored to serve on the board of Erase Racism because, as our wordsmith, Marge Rogatz, said it best in an email this morning that I received this morning. Thank you for giving me the words. She said, and I quote, "There is no team like the Erase Racism team, and I mean everyone on it, and we are blessed by having the best leadership and staff imaginable." And now it is my great honor to introduce Erase Racism's brilliant, brave pathfinder and leader, our truly amazing founder and president, Elaine Gross.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. This is the spirit in the room is unbelievable. I could hardly get you to stop talking when you first came in, but that's a good thing. I would like to begin actually by doing something which is very special to us. Last year, for the first time, we sponsored a student essay contest with the participants in our student leadership program for high school students. And the program has been very well received. We just had a lovely roundtable discussion with Mr. Chenault and with some students before we came downstairs. And they are just enthusiastic and wonderful leaders. And this year, I am very pleased to present the award to Margaret Leando for her essay, which is, you can read the essay in the back of the journal. And I'd like to have Margaret come up to accept the award, and we have a $500 check to give her, and we also have this giant check.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would love to thank the president of Race Racism, Ms. Elaine Gross, for having made this possible for the second consecutive year. It has been a great honor for me to have been involved in the leadership conference this past January, because I have created so many memories that I will always treasure throughout many years to come. I have been exposed to many ideas and concepts about racism, and I will be bringing those back to my school in order to create a change more in Brentwood High School, where diversity is such a great concept. I believe that such narrow-minded concepts should be abolished, and that is the goal of erase racism that Ms. Elaine Gross has constantly been able to uphold for many years. Next, I would like to thank my family and friends for always being there and supporting me. I know nothing of this would have been possible without their constant support. And last but not least, I would love to thank Ms. Olivia Ildefonso for being such an energetic and amicable person. With representatives like her, I know that erase racism will be able to grow and expand for many years to come. Thank you very much.
And Margaret's parents and her sister are here tonight, which is wonderful. I don't quite know where you are, but thank you for coming. I need to recognize the board of Erase Racism. We have a fantastic board, very dedicated to this work. And I'd like the board members to stand so that we can recognize them, please. And of course, I need to thank my staff, Shirley, Sharon Font, and Olivia Ildefonso. Olivia is in the room, and I think Shirley is busy with the silent auction items. They have, they do a wonderful job year-round, but they really put themselves out to make this event a success. It wouldn't happen without them. And then, of course, they are joined by many, many volunteers, and there are people like from our College of Advisors who also contribute much to erase racism, and I appreciate that. So it was suggested to me that this year I take some time, because when we look through the names of the people who were coming to the event, we noticed that there were certainly a lot of our old friends, but there were also names that we didn't recognize. And we wanted to take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about Erase Racism, because we always think of this event as both a fundraiser, but also a friend raiser. And we hope that by the time you leave, you've met somebody new and you've learned something new. So let me just take a few minutes to talk about Erase Racism. This is our 12th anniversary, and Erase Racism has been identifying various forms of racial discrimination and advocating for the laws and policies that address the racial disparities that result from institutional and structural racism. And I know that there are a number of people who say, isn't this the time when we no longer have to have this conversation? It's 2013 after all. Haven't we already completed the work of the civil rights movement? Don't we have too much racialized discourse these days? And isn't that all of that race talk sort of a downer that hurts more than it helps? So I'd like to respond to some of those frequently asked questions. I'll start with the first one. Why is Erase Racism doing what it's doing? Why are we concerned about racial discrimination and eliminating racial disparities in 2013? First, I have to say, Long Island is the 10th most racially segregated metropolitan region in the country, according to 2010 census data. And we are more segregated by race than we are by income. And I know that's counterintuitive because people like to say that it's all about income, but it's not. Because we are segregated by where we live, our children overwhelmingly attend racially segregated schools. And why is that? Well, because there are 124 school districts on Long Island that mirror the segregated housing patterns. And this matters. Segregated public schools are still inherently unequal, and it's a detriment to everybody. For example, as you will see on the brochures that are on the Erase Racism on the table, the Erase Racism brochures, only 2.7% of the African American children and 4.7% of the Hispanic children have access to the highest performing schools. So I'm talking about our children, Long Island's children, all of our children. And that's structural racism, when people don't have the opportunity, such a tiny percentage. When some people see the achievement gap in between black and white and Latino and white children, their response is, well, they're not working hard enough, or they're not smart enough, or their parents don't care enough about education, etc. They see the gap, but they don't see the structural impediments to opportunity that helps to contribute to that gap. And if you are a proponent of merit, then you need to become concerned about structural impediments to equal opportunity. Because by limiting opportunity to whole groups of kids that happen to be brown or black, we will never get to know who are the smart kids. Who are all the smart kids? We won't get to know that. When you think about that limited access that we just talked about. Not only is it unfair to these children who overwhelmingly don't get to realize their full potential, it is short-sighted and harmful to the region as a whole. That's what I hear from the business community. They say we need all the help we can get to sustain our regions. We need people to fill those empty positions in our companies. So we shouldn't be throwing away some of that potential before they become adults. And that's why one of the things we do at Erase Racism is we've just created an education equity working group. This is a challenge that we need to solve sooner rather than later. And there are some people in this room and some people on Long Island who are behind that effort. Let me deal with the second question. yes, the civil rights movement of the 60s did stop the legality of policies basically saying that the black children could not attend a school with the white kids. The civil rights movement stopped the overt policies that say that. And it stopped the practices of using guns and fire hoses to ensure that that would happen. That the black children would not be able to attend those high-resourced schools. But some things are still going on unabated. We know that housing discrimination is still going on. This has been part of Erase Racism's work since 2001. We have researched it and tracked it, and if you haven't seen it, you can check out our website or our table to look at the research reports. We also know that overwhelmingly, if given a choice, at least blacks on Long Island would prefer to live in racially integrated communities. How do we know that? Because we asked the Stony Brook Survey Research Center to conduct a telephone poll, and that's what people said. We can find that on our website. You can find that on our website as well, or at the table. And I might add that that poll result, they're not unlike the results of other polls around the country. So the discrimination happens more quietly now. It's always been structural, of course, but now the structures can do the work without the histrionics of the Jim Crow era. The school district lines are silent, even though they produce segregated and unequal schools. You don't have to have all the talk about keeping those kids out of the better resource schools. You don't have to have that kind of conversation. And municipalities may not realize it, but if they are overwhelmingly white and adopt policies that only allow people who already live there to access the affordable housing that's being built in their communities, for example, the policy is a structural impediment to blacks and Latinos because they are not now represented in those communities. And therefore, they can't access that housing. So under this scenario, which is a reality on Long Island, I'm sorry to say, no one has to explicitly state that blacks and Latinos need not apply for the housing. The policy does the dirty work. The policy says you already have to live here, and if you don't live there, well then you don't get a chance to access that housing. Finally, let me address the issue of too much so-called race talk. I won't even get into my critique of the conversations about race that go on incessantly in the media. In my opinion, there is little discourse of substance that takes place. There's a lot of screaming going on, but not much substance. The types of conversations that we have with our race and racism dialogues and the workshops that we lead with adults and with the children. And you heard the way that Margaret talked about her experience in the student leadership program. Those conversations are based on research. They're based on census data analysis. It's not the screaming finger pointing that's going on. And let's make sure that our laws and policies are discriminating less rather than more. That's why we were so pleased when the Nassau legislature took our suggestion and passed a fair housing law that included source of income as a protected class, for example. And I see actually that Tom Swazi, who was the county executive at the time and who was the champion of that legislation, is actually a guest here tonight. So with that legislation in Nassau County, if you are able to pay for your rent with money that is obtained legally, but it's not necessarily from a job. It could be from alimony, it could be from government subsidy, and that's what helps you to be able to pay the rent, you cannot be denied access to the housing because of that legal source of income. And I was pleased to see that Governor Cuomo announced recently in his Women's Agenda that source of income should not be used to discriminate against women. And while that statement wasn't talking about race, if source of income is passed in the state, adopted in the state, it will also help curb discrimination of blacks and Latinos, who would more likely, in some instances where you're talking about affordable housing, might need some other subsidy along with whatever income they have in order to pay the rent. So I thank you so much for your attention, for paying attention as we talk about a very serious issue. Most of this event is a big party, as you've noticed. But the organization, Erased Racism, we know how to have a good time, but we also know how to address very important issues, very serious issues. And I wanted you to just get a little bit of a flavor for what that's all about. I hope that you will take the brochure that's on your table, because that will give you a snapshot of some of the things that we do. And I hope that I've helped to clear up any misconceptions you might have about the kind of work we do and why we still do this work. And I'd like to end my remarks by saying, I heard someone mention recently a phrase that I have really grown attached to, which is that we need to remember that we all do better when we all do better. And at Erase Racism, we believe that. And we think that if we take that attitude seriously, that will really suggest to us that it helps and it's fair to make sure that we are breaking down those impediments to opportunities. We want all of the Margarets and all of the Quaisies, if you were here last year, we want all of those children to be able to realize their full potential. Thank you so much. So I would like to ask Howard Glickstein, who is co-chair of the board of directors, and as you know, is a civil rights icon in his own right, to come forward and introduce our first awardee for this evening. Please welcome Howard Glickstein.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to present Erase Racism's 2013 Corporate Leadership Award tonight. Over 50 years ago, the United States Congress set as a goal for this country a decent home for every American family. As Elaine has spoken tonight, you can see the relationship between housing, education, jobs, and healthcare. A very intimate and close relationship. On Long Island, the importance of maintaining a community where senior citizens and those who are just starting off in life can afford to live is essential. It's a terrible thing when we force senior citizens to leave Long Island because they can no longer afford to live here, or deny younger people the opportunity to start their lives here on Long Island. Jobco, the recipient of our Corporate Leadership Award, has played a major role in the Long Island housing market since 1950. The company has completed hundreds of construction projects and has produced over 10,000 units of new or rehabilitated housing. In your program, there's a fuller description of why we are honoring Jobco tonight. Jobco has been a major force in real estate development, general construction, and property management, committed to increasing quality of affordable housing. Jobco has a proud record of building government-assisted low-income affordable housing communities that include senior and family rental sale projects supported by federal and state agencies and local public housing authorities. Jobco's activities on Long Island have contributed to opening up housing opportunities for people who have often suffered discrimination in the past. Housing everyone well is an economic imperative for this region today and tomorrow. Corporations play a vital role in ensuring the health of our economy. Corporations can play a key role also in furthering important social goals, such as the availability of decent housing. Erase Racism appreciates the opportunity to present its Corporate Leadership Award to Jobco. And I am delighted, we are delighted, that Robert M. Vespucci, President and Chief Executive Officer, is here to accept the award. Mr. Vespucci.
Howard, thank you for those kind words. I don't have anything left to say. You've said it all for me on my behalf. Thank you very, very much. I'm delighted to be here tonight. It's wonderful to have over a half century of work in Long Island and throughout the tri-state area recognized by such a great group. I would like to thank Elaine Gross and her entire racism team for all of the work that you do. And making Long Island a better place to live. I heard both Howard and Elaine talk about schools. Particularly proud of the fact that our company built one of the first Section 8 communities and built it in the Roslyn School District. So, you know, access to good schools is doable. We have built housing in the Manhasset School District. We are, on behalf of the North Hempstead Housing Authority, managing properties in Port Washington schools, Manhasset schools, Roslyn schools. So it's doable. If there's some NIMBYism, we need to get past it. But I'm honored to be here. I would like to acknowledge my partner, Michael Puntillo, who founded Jobco in 1950. I want to share with you that we celebrated his 91st birthday last week. And I will tell you, Mike Puntillo is in the office almost every day and takes less vacations than I do. I'm embarrassed by that, but I'll admit it. And in fact, he's very busy. We're working on a community that we hope to build in Central Islip soon, providing for-sale housing for a diverse market. And I'm proud to be part of making and keeping Long Island affordable and available to seniors and first-time home buyers and economically challenged families. Grateful for the public institutions that help sponsor and fund these programs. And again, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you, Erase Racism, for this award.